You know what it is. MVP Brody 93 has another vid for you. Somebody asked me what's your ideal length for an album in music today. Album length is important to me because some artists can hold your attention over a certain time period. You know, one of my favorite albums of all time, Kanye West's Late Registration, is I think 21 tracks long, but he's such a good artist and the subject matter is so diverse and the production is so great that he was able to hold me over for those 21 tracks and skits. He was able to hold me over, so it was okay. But another artist probably wouldn't be able to do that, you know? So it depends on, and I don't think none of these today's artists, musicians, are good enough to hold on a CD for 20 tracks anymore. I think the ideal length would be like 13 tracks, 12 tracks. You see, most of the most popular albums that come out this year are not long. They're not the classic 19, 20, 18 tracks with skits. People don't really listen to albums anymore like that. When you really think of it, people aren't buying albums like they used to, so people aren't listening to them. People are basically listening for the singles. There's only certain artists that people check for the entire album. Those artists would be like, if you're a huge fan of them, like I'm talking about like a diehard fan, like you buy their albums, you listen to them. People might say you go to their concerts, stuff like that, you listen to them. But the average fan of music today is not gonna buy and listen to a whole album. So to combat that, like the biggest album of the year so far is probably Watch the Throne, Jay-Z and Kanye West. That album, the official album, is only 12 tracks, and then you have like the extra tracks, the 4 tracks after, so that's basically like 16, 17 tracks, but the real thing is 12 songs long. Me, the ideal would be like 13, 12 songs, you don't need more than that. And people, you need to stop with the skits. The skits for these albums are just like retarded now. I mean, there used to be times where skits used to be classic, but sometimes they just weigh the album down, you know? So ideally 13, 14 tracks. 14 tracks the most, 12 tracks. You see most of these albums around 12 tracks now, 11 tracks. Um, as I said, only certain artists can hold down an album for that many tracks anymore. And music today has fallen off a lot, so music isn't even that good. I can't even tell you the last time I enjoyed a 18 to 20 track album. Probably be years ago. People just can't hold down a disc anymore. Um, so people, you need to step your album game up. If you wanna be the legendary artist, you have to step your album game up. And if you can't do those 18 and 20 track albums, which I don't think anyone can really do anymore, stick to the 12 track album. 12, 13 tracks. I mean, the Carter 4 was like 18 tracks, I think. Wayne's not good enough for an artist to hold down 18 tracks. Even his best album, Carter 2, had 22 tracks, and that was way long. If he'd held to maybe like 11 to 13, he would probably have a classic album, which he doesn't, but that would have been his classic. Um, yeah, so some albums are really long. Like, I remember like 10 years ago, Christina Aguilera, she dropped Strip, and that was an excellent, excellent album. One of my favorite albums of all time, even though it's extremely underrated. People hate on that album for no reason. It was way too long. It was like 21 tracks. I swear, if she would have done like 12 tracks, and I could have picked out those exact 12 tracks, it had some. The reason why it was long, it had some filler on it, and a couple, 3 or 4 just like awful tracks. And people say, oh, she shouldn't have got creative like writing at like 21 years old, because she basically did her own album. She got the creative control process like early. So if she'd have cut that album to like 10, 12 tracks, she would have had a classic album. And you could argue it's one of the best albums. In my opinion, it's one of the best female albums by a female artist ever, in my opinion anyway. People will disagree with me, but I don't care. And then if she did like 10, 12 tracks, but it was just like way too long. Then you have another example, Emancipation of Mimi and Mariah Carey. That was like 13 tracks. That album was almost flawless. I mean, you couldn't. I mean, then you have I was like Nas Illmatic, 10 tracks. He hit every single track out the park. It's a masterpiece. Um, so tell me what you think on album lengths. How long, like individually? I mean, like ideally, how many songs would each album have, in your opinion? Do you think artists today are good enough to hold up over a whole album? And which are artists that you check for their whole album, not like singles or like a couple tracks, like you check for their entire album? So tell me what you think. Inbox, comment on the page. It is what it is.